All right, so good evening, everyone. We thank God for a very beautiful, perfect last week. Perfect not because we did not incur losses, but perfect because above all the losses, we were profitable overall. I think last week we had how many trades? I want us to run through them together. Uh, this was one I had pending before the market opened, and the market just blasted through. So that one doesn't count. So we had this first one, and we were looking at a possible re-entry here that the market didn't give us. And the market, so 1:3, that's one, then -1. Yeah, that ended up a loss. Market took us out at break even on this particular one. And then this one did some 1:2.5 before the market retraced and closed. I can't remember where the market closed. Nope. Alright. Okay, so as you can see, the market closed in a range. Um, so I don't know. For someone like me, actually, the moment market did 1.2, 1:2.5, partials is gone. This one, pure break even before the market came back to tap into this and then did 1:3. So overall, we had like four trades, if I'm correct. One, two, three, four, okay, five trades. For three winners, one loser, one break even. Yeah, so we should be grateful because that's one of the principles that guides increase gratitude. So we are grateful. And even if everything had ended up a perfect loss, or like if everything had ended in a way that the losses were much more than our wins, we would still have been grateful because that's just 1 week out of the 4 weeks in a month and out of the 52 weeks in a year. So that should not determine who we are as traders. So once again, what is weekly outlook? We all are welcome. Okay, I had this one. I can remember. I had it last week before. I think as the market was just doing anyhow, I closed it. But let's see what's going to happen because this looks like okay, we are jumping the gun already. So what's weekly outlook? Weekly outlook simply means that we're coming around trying to check what we are expecting in the coming week. And as usual, just like last week, for those who are on the call or for those who have gone through the video on YouTube already, you realize that while we were bullish, we were not we did not shut our mind to the fact that we could have some possible reversals. Unfortunately, that was much like 80% of what happened. In fact, the only buy we wanted to participate in, the buy ended up a loss. And then most of the profits we had on that on Euro USD were from the sales. So what I just mean by that is that we took our direction from the weekly time frame, right? Which is the best thing. And we were not shutting our mind to the fact that though we are expecting more buys, the market can decide that this is the week of retracement. And funnily, that was it. So now let us now go into this week again. Looking at what we should expect. I'm coming, let me, which one is this? Okay, this is the one that was running last week, and imagine market did 1:3.5 and then turned back. So ideally, if your target is 1:4, market has done 1:3. Oga, as no be your papa get market, so at least take some good thing off here, and then you know you are good. And if everything still goes in the expected direction, well, God is good at the end of the day. Yeah, so let's hide these ones. What else? The trend line, we can leave that one there. So as usual, we have a checklist. Let's just write it again for the purpose of guidance. So we have trend or structure, we have range, we have liquidity, we have banks or entry. So those who have been following before now must have noticed that I omitted something, which is fib. I remember I'm supposed to take a full class on the course SMC or the strategy I trade, and well, I would do all I can to create time so I can do that, because God have mercy. Time has not been kind to me, as it were. All right, so what is the trend? Trend is the direction of the market. The trend is your friend. Structure is king when it comes to trading. There is nothing we can do in this market outside structure. All the sales we took here, we took it because of structure. The buy we were trying to take, we were trying to take it because of what? Because of structure. Is that clear? So, long story short is that we need to be able to identify the trend first. And since it is that we are entering into a new week, it is important that we pick our direction first from the weekly. So, meaning that from Sunday, I pick my direction from the weekly, but from Monday to Friday, I deal with the daily and the 4 hour. I don't know if that's clear enough, because yeah, this is not a strategy class here, but at the end of the day, irrespective of the strategy you want to trade, whether you're a scalper, whether you're a swing trader, you don't want to go beyond 2 time frames for direction. Anything beyond that, you just suffocate yourself. All this top-down analysis, for me, I've realized that there's a psychological trap behind it. You want to be correct, and it's not possible. It's not possible. You can't have 100% win rates. You can have 100% win rate over a span of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if possible, 7 months. But trust me, you can't have it forever. So just stick with what works. I was still seeing a guy video on Instagram yesterday, Jade Cap. According to his claim, is a mentee of ICT here. And this guy said he has made $2.8 million this year with a 30% win rate. So guys, focus on what is important. All those 1 ratio, 20, 80% win rate, top. God will help us. That's by the way. So let's move into the weekly. So looking at the weekly here, the fact is that we can only see have one conclusion from the weekly. The weekly is still what? Bullish. You see all this thing that is from this point to the left. Fact is, forget about it. This should be your current focus. Just this one here. So fact is that the weekly is still what? The weekly is still very much bullish. Yes, entering last week, we said, who knows, this might be the week that would have the retracement, and God so good we had it. So what should we be looking for this week? Is it more buys? Is it more sells? Men and brethren, the truth is that it is dicey. That's the first fact. Yes, it is dicey. What do I mean by it is dicey? First is that the real trend direction is that the market is bullish. But looking at some other principles in the market, we can say that we should still expect more retracement. What does that mean? This is an old high and a previous weekly high whose liquidity was swept, and then the market closed below. One of the principles or structures in trading, as it were, is that if the market should take a previous weekly high or low, the next point of target should be the candle's high or low. So what I mean by that is that since the market has taken both weeks high and low, and even closed below them, all things being equal, market should come down at least to this point or this point before we can now expect something to move on to the onside. So meaning that even if we step into this week seeing some sells either to this point or to this point, that does not mean that the overall trend direction of Euro USD is bearish. I don't know if that makes sense. Why? Because markets move in waves. Extension, retracement, extension, retracement, extension. So what I mean by that simply is that while the overall trend direction is still bullish, we are not ignorant of the fact that this week, based on what we've seen again, might be another week for continuous retracement. Because if the week expands to the upside, it has to retrace down a bit before it starts going back up again. So how do we have something affirmative or something very definitive? There is still one other thing. It's like some of the principles we work with in trading. Yeah. So another thing is this particular candlestick, that's the candlestick for last week. Let's see where it's closed inside this candle. All right, so from the look of things, this particular candle, although it's closed bearish, still closed above 50% of this candle. So what that means in a way is that this bearish movement may not be strong. I'm not saying it is not strong. I'm saying it may not be strong. Adimi, we had a closure below the 50%. This is 50% level. This is my own Fibonacci too. I removed all the numbers and just know that this is 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. So the mid one is 50. So supposing we had a closure below 50%, we can say that it's a principle here. If a candle closes above or below 50% of a particular candle imbalance or order block, there is every probability that all of that order block, imbalance, or candle will be filled. Let me take that again so that you can understand it in a way that can be clearer. Let me look for a very good example. I'm trying to look for an example. Maybe a very perfect one. Okay, so take a look at this one, for example. It's an imbalance over here. This is the open of the imbalance. All right. And then this is the close of it. So what the principle states is that if we should have a candle that closes above 50% of the imbalance, all of the imbalance will be filled. And if you look at it very well, you see that this entire imbalance was filled. Because there are situations whereby you see a candle just tap slightly into an imbalance and then it moves up to the previous. Okay, so this is one. I know I saw one here. Yeah, look at this one over here now. This is a very wide imbalance over here. So you can see the market just taps into it and moves on. So when you see something like this, the candle tapping into it and going to close above the imbalance, that might give a slight assurance that that imbalance can serve as support. Remember, this is not a beginner's class, so I'm assuming everyone knows what an imbalance is, what a breakout block is, what an order block is. Take a look at this. We have another example over here too, which is that this is a very big imbalance. The market just taps into it and goes above it. So at D-min, we have a scenario whereby, the markets came. If this is 50%, if this point is 50% of the imbalance, if at any point a candle came and closed below 50% of it, the principle, of course, and I've seen it happen more like 80% of the time, states that the imbalance will be completely filled before we now have a possible continuous movement to the upside. I believe we understand that logic. So not to waste too much of time, what is the trend direction for the week? What is the trend direction for the week that we are about to step into? I just mentioned already The fact is that Euro USD is very much bullish, but from what we are seeing now, we are seeing signs that the market wants to do what? Market wants to react towards the direction of a retracement. So if we are expecting a retracement, towards what point should we think that the market can continue to move back up? We can mark the closest one, which is what? This imbalance over here. This imbalance over here, right? And if you look at it very well now, you realize that that imbalance is doing what? If you checked the video for last week, you realize that we marked this place out still. That's what that imbalance is overlapping with a previous support. Initially it was support turned resistance, and now market has broken above it massively. So meaning that ideally going into this week, we may expect something like this. And remember where we started from. Market has swept this previous daily high. So ideally, where should be the next target? I say daily, weekly, this weekly low. So mostly we can have something like this and we continue to the upside. This is because we are not ignorant of the fact that the market is clearly in a buying environment, but this is weekly time frame. We know that it would retrace, and some retracements can span for 2 weeks. So should we now say that because we only want to be following the trend, we won't do anything? This retracement is also a short-term trend, so we can follow that one too. Where it does not make sense to follow a short-term trend is anything less than the daily time frame. I believe I'm making sense to us now. Where it does not make sense to follow a short-term trend is on the daily time frame, because a short-term reversal on a weekly time frame, on a monthly time frame, is a full explosive movement and trend directions on weekly, daily, and 4-hour. I hope that makes a lot of sense to us. So this is scenario one, because except in situations whereby market makes it very clear, we often have two possible scenarios. So this is scenario one, and in fact, this is the only expectation for now, until the market does otherwise. So we are expecting that since these previous weekly highs have been taken, their lows should be the next targets. Market comes into them, tap into them, and then we most likely continue to move to the upside. So now let's scale down to the daily time frame and see what we have there. What has the market been doing on the daily level? Let's take this off. All right, so on the daily time frame now, you realize that the daily time frame seems very dicey here. Last week closed here, we had this full explosion to the upside, and then this entire retracement. Now it's dicey because how best can I put this to us? When it comes to movements now, ideally, initially, a school of thought will count this as a break of structure. But eventually, as I and many of the people I started learning with began to advance in the market, we got to realize that, oh, okay, that may not be a break of structure. It may actually be a sweep of internal liquidity. So sometimes what counts, sometimes not all the time. So it just depends on you knowing in what scenario to use it. So sometimes what counts as a break of structure for us is a double level structural break. Do you get it? Because we've seen situations whereby market does this according to what we thought you higher, low, right? Market should come here and also continue up, isn't it? But over time, when you also check your charts, you realize that we've seen scenario whereby market does something like this, comes to take this place as internal liquidity and continue to move. I hope it makes sense to us. So we are having such scenario here again, meaning that it is honestly difficult to tell which one the market is perfectly doing. But if you say you want to look closer, the buys that I was looking for last week before we had that loss, it was inside this other block. Market took it out, came back inside it, and I was just thinking that market will just use it as a support to go back up. But if you also look at what is currently happening right here, it is not meant to in fact, I don't know if I should talk about it yet, but it's not meant to confuse you. In fact, don't let me talk about it. It confused quite a number of persons. So long story short is that, to be very honest, even the daily looks what? Unclear. So while we've had the opportunity to maximize some trades last week, this week may be that week where we would have to wait until the market tells us clearly what it wants to do. That's part of weekly outlook. However, Mr. Demi, you are writing on our screen. If we go down to, say, the 4 hour, for example, or 1 hour, yeah, where we had this before the close of last week, literally, right, these are equal lows. And in the principle of liquidity, equal lows are what? Equal lows are money. All things being equal, the markets will come for them. It may not do so now, it may not do so this week, but eventually the market will come for them someday. This is another example here. All this now, they are relative equal lows. What did you see that the markets did here? Took them out, went back up, and continued to move to the upside. So this is what is informing, or this was what informed the sales I took here and having my take profits at that point. Let me bring this out again. Can you see it? So meaning that this week currently, while it looks as though I have a running position that closed from last week, in all honesty, right now, I just want to sit down on my arms and wait for markets to give me a clearer direction, most likely on Monday or even on Tuesday. So what should we be expecting? Who knows? On Monday now, because according to the way I know how to read the markets again, the market is looking like one that is giving buy vibes. So according to what I know, let me tell us one thing ahead that can most likely confirm a buy for us this week. If we should get a market closure above this red candle. So what that means is that when market opens tonight, it will definitely open tonight, and we get to enter into Monday. If we should see a scenario whereby the market, goes ahead to close above this other block on a 4-hour time frame, we can be super confident that the market is coming to this point. Trust me, we can be super confident about that. So until the market does so, remember our first expectation, which is that what the market should do, what come down here and then go up. So how do we capitalize on this retracement? Men and brethren, fact remains that there is no way we can capitalize on it, on this down movement, to go up yet. There is no way yet until we have a clear break of structure below the structural points. Is it making sense? Please, if it is not, unmute your microphone now and ask questions. But so far, is it making sense? I need responses.
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Yes, sir. We can listen.
All right, thank you. So are you get, because this is market structure, yeah? The reason why we currently have this sell is because from the 4-hour we had a full sell from here down, sweep of liquidity, break of structure, entry on retracement. That's why we are selling. So we are saying to be able to further continue the sell, we need another break of structure to the downside. The market's closed within a range, so we need a closure below this point to confirm we are going down, or a closure above this point, like I said, to confirm that we are going up. So what is the market outlook on Euro USD for this week? The market outlook is wait for confirmation. Now I've told us this, see, bet me, this is almost sure. Of course, we can't speak with full confidence in this market here, but this is what happens most of the times, the way we've always spoken. So when we get a closure above this line, we can be sure we are what, um, you know, going up. And if we should get a break eventually below here, we can almost anticipate that this is what is also most likely going to happen. Everything building the basis on the fact that what the weekly time frame is in a what is in a buying environment. I hope that's clear. So that's that on Euro USD. Does anyone have any other assets in mind? I mostly don't trade more than two assets: Euro USD, USD card, and that's it. But we've had for Euro USD. If there's anyone who has any other assets you like us to look into, please let me know. And following the weekly outlook, if you pay attention, you realize that it is not just about the assets we are analyzing. It's about you having a peep into my thought process or into the thought process of what forms the trade decision. This is part of how I actually learned to trade with confidence. My mentor then, Tony Blair, also holds weekly outlook. So I go back to those videos, watch it, saying that this is how Tony thinks. In this kind of scenario, this is what Tony would think it should do. So I should also do the same thing, copy and paste, no stress. So that's how I grew in my confidence in market analysis. And that's actually the aim. That's my goal for everyone. That in watching this, I'm not here to just give you handouts. No, that in watching this over time also, you also will get to a point where you can almost confidently say what you are expecting. And remember, what you are expecting does not have to be yes, it's going up or yes, it's coming down. Like today, it could be yes, we'll wait for the market and see what it wants to do before we continue to move. So let me take a snapshot of this and send it to the group. Yep. So we have something to guide us for the week. All right. So does anyone have any assets? Oops. Zoom said we are running out of time. Okay. So we have less than 10 minutes. Does anyone have any assets you like us to look into? If there is none, we may just run through maybe USD card also, and then we wrap it up for tonight. Okay, so I'm taking our silence as no one. So let's just check for USD card too, and then let's make progress. So for USD card, we also go to the weekly time frame here. Okay, so USD card is heavily bearish. As you can see, we had this break of structure here, retracement, another break of structure to the downside. And not to waste much of time, I can already see some things over here already. This can be a form of a breakout block since it did not support price to go back up. And from what I can see already, the market has already tapped into that breakout block and even closed below it. This is just me jumping the checklist I drew earlier. So long story short, first off is that the market is heavily bearish. That is it. That's our focus. And let us now scale to the daily time frame to see what's up. All right, so on the daily time frame right now, we can see market tapped into the breakout block, came down massively, and here it is again. So on the daily time frame now, it looks as though we have a minor break of structure to the upside on the daily, right? And yeah, so for that trade I took, it was just this other block I was using, entry there, stop loss, and because I was anticipating that okay, since we had the break of structure already, maybe the market wants to give us a retracement, to even tap into this breakout block again and then continue to move to the downside. Either ways, we are still heavily bearish on USD card also. And just like Euro USD, this nigga also looks almost very indecisive for the moment. So for us to be able to join a buy, what will we wait for further? We will need to wait for a break above this high to join the buys. And don't let's forget that that buy is not the long-term trade. No, that buy is a retracement to most likely take all this trend line liquidity, tap into the breaker block again, and continue to the downside. So it's just like the opposite of Euro USD. Yeah. Or we wait for what? A break below this low. That would be a 4-hour minor break of structure. And what would that mean? That would mean that we may just most likely want to continue our move to the downside from there. So if market does any of this, of course, we can capitalize on these movements, being realistic with our take profit points. So most especially when I'm trying to maximize retracement moves, initially, I said initially, most times my TP is not for more than 1:2 because I'm not confident or how far. Yes, can the market actually even now break structure from here? Yes, it can and continue to move to the upside finally. But the fact is that until the market has told you that is what it wants to do, never assume that is what it wants to do. You follow the trend until the trend says otherwise. So that will be all for tonight. I think we've had so the outlook once again is what wait, and then when the market gives us any of the things we are looking for, then we know how to engage. I'm also looking at how maybe we can have weekly follow-up commentaries, Okay, since we've had the outlook for the week, so maybe on Wednesday we can now say, okay, this is how far Monday, Tuesday has done. So what should we look out for the rest of the week? But in all honesty, I'm not so super sure of what my time will be yet. Let's stop this recording.